200 people filled the grand hall of the Lone Star Country Club outside Houston. Drop your location in the comments. I stood at the entrance, shaking hands and accepting congratulations as colleagues, friends, and family filed in for what was supposed to be a celebration of 40 years, building everything from strip malls to skyscrapers across 3 states. The banner behind the podium read, Thomas Crawford, 4 decades of excellence. I was 65 years old, officially retired as of yesterday, and according to the evening's program, about to announce my plans for the family construction business I'd built from nothing. But standing there in my suit, watching my nephew Derek work the room with his practiced smile, I knew something nobody else in that hall knew. In exactly 20 minutes. During the toast, Derek was planning to have me sign documents that would transfer complete control of Crawford Construction to him. Documents I wasn't supposed to understand. Documents that would leave me with nothing. The thing is, I'd already read them. Every single page. And I had a plan of my own. Let me back up. 3 weeks earlier, I'd gone to the office late on a Saturday to pick up some files. The building was supposed to be empty. My retirement party planning was in full swing, and I'd wanted to review the transition documents Derek had prepared. He was my sister Linda's boy, 38 years old, and he'd worked alongside me for 15 years. Smart, ambitious, everything I'd hoped for when Linda asked me to give him a shot, fresh out of college. I trusted him. That was my first mistake. I heard voices coming from the conference room. Derek's voice, and another I recognized as Marcus Webb, Derek's business partner and our company's CFO for the past 8 years. I almost called out, almost announced myself, but something in their tone made me pause. I stood in the hallway outside the partially open door, and I listened. "The old man's got no idea what he's signing," Derek said, and I could hear papers rustling. "He thinks these are standard retirement transition documents. By the time anyone explains what a power of attorney actually means, it'll be too late." "And you're sure about the dementia angle?" That was Marcus. "Because if he fights this..." "He won't," Derek interrupted. "I've been planting seeds for months. Comments about him forgetting things, repeating stories, getting confused about dates. Half the family already thinks he's losing it. Mom's worried sick, keeps calling me, asking if he's okay. After the party, we'll have Dr. Patterson do an evaluation, confirm cognitive decline, and boom, the power of attorney activates. I take control of the company, and Dad Crawford enjoys his golden years playing checkers somewhere quiet." "What about Sarah?" Marcus asked, referring to my wife. "She'll be upset, sure, but she's not on any of the business documents. I made sure of that years ago when we restructured. She gets the house and her accounts, but the business? That's all flowing to me. By the time she realizes what happened, I'll have sold off the assets, liquidated everything, and we'll be sitting on $45 million. Split 70-30, like we agreed." My blood went cold. 45 million. That was the estimated value of Crawford Construction if it was sold off in pieces. The company I'd built from nothing, starting with a single crew and a pickup truck 4 decades ago. The company that bore my name, my reputation, my life's work. "The retirement party's perfect," Derek continued. "Everyone there. Big celebration." He signs the papers in front of witnesses thinking it's some ceremonial bullshit about officially passing the torch. He won't read them. He never does anymore. Just signs, where I tell him. Then it's done. I backed away from the door carefully, quietly, my mind racing. I drove home in a daze. Sarah was in the kitchen when I walked in, and she took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "Thomas, what happened?" I told her everything, every word. She went pale, then red with anger, then pale again. "Derek?" she whispered. "Linda's son? The boy I helped raise after Jim left her?" "The same. We need to call the police. Call a lawyer. Call..." "No," I said, and my voice was steadier than I felt. "We need to be smart about this. If we accuse him now, he'll deny everything. It's his word against mine. And he's been building a case that I'm losing my mental capacity. Who do you think people will believe? The concerned nephew trying to help his aging uncle, or the confused old man making wild accusations?" Sarah stared at me. "So what do we do?" I thought about it all weekend. By Monday morning, I had a plan. First, I called Jonathan Reeves, my attorney for 30 years. Not the young associate who'd been handling my recent paperwork, but Jonathan himself. I drove to his office downtown, not the branch office where Derek might have eyes and ears. "Jonathan," I said, sitting across from his desk, "I need you to do something for me, and I need you to keep it completely confidential. Don't tell anyone in your firm. Don't make any notes anyone else can see." I explained everything. Jonathan's expression went from concerned to furious to coldly professional. "The power of attorney, he's prepared," Jonathan said, pulling out his reading glasses. "If you signed it without understanding what it was, we could potentially challenge it later, but it would be messy, expensive, time-consuming. And if there's even a hint that you might have diminished capacity," he shook his head, "we need to prevent you from signing it in the first place." "I know," I said, "but I want more than that. I want Derek to expose himself. I want him to show everyone exactly who he is." Jonathan leaned back in his chair. "What are you thinking? The retirement party is in 2.5 weeks. He's planning to have me sign during the toast, make it this big ceremonial moment. I'm thinking we let him believe it's going to happen, but we prepare something else. Something that reveals the truth in front of everyone." We spent 3 hours planning. Jonathan drafted a completely different set of documents. Legitimate transition papers that would move the business into a trust with me and Sarah as trustees, and specific instructions for the company's future. Real retirement paperwork that protected everything we'd built. "We'll prepare 2 sets of folders," Jonathan said, "identical on the outside. You'll do a switch. When Derek hands you his forged documents to sign, you'll already have our real documents on the table. And when he realizes, he won't. Not immediately. Not until it's too late." Jonathan smiled grimly. "And by then, we'll have him on record trying to defraud you. I'll have witnesses ready." The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to act normal around Derek, had to smile and nod when he talked about the party preparations, had to pretend I didn't know what he was planning. Sarah could barely stand to be in the same room with him, kept making excuses to leave when he came over. My sister Linda called one evening, concerned. "Tommy, Derek tells me you've been having some trouble remembering things lately. Is everything okay?" So he'd been working on her too, preparing his narrative. "I'm fine, Lynn," I said carefully. "Just the normal stuff that comes with being 65. Nothing to worry about." "Well, if you ever need anything, you know Derek and I are here for you, right? We're family." Family. The word felt like ashes in my mouth. I also did something else during those 2 weeks. I hired a private investigator, a retired FBI agent named Patricia Cole that Jonathan recommended. She dug into Derek and Marcus's finances, their communications, their plans. What she found made everything worse. "They've already got buyers lined up," Patricia reported, sitting in my home office with Sarah and me. 3 different development companies ready to buy up Crawford Construction's contracts and assets. They've been negotiating for 6 months. Your nephew and Marcus stand to walk away with nearly $50 million when everything's liquidated. They've even got shell companies set up in Delaware to hide the money. "Can we use this?" Sarah asked. "Absolutely," Patricia said. "I've documented everything. Bank records, emails, recorded phone calls from one-party consent states. It's a prosecutor's dream. Fraud, elder exploitation, conspiracy. They're looking at serious prison time." "Good," I said quietly. Sarah looked at me. "You want them prosecuted?" "I want everyone to know the truth," I said. "I want Linda to see what her son really is. I want Derek's wife Melissa to understand who she married. I want every single person who ever trusted him to know he was willing to steal everything from family." The night of the retirement party arrived. I dressed carefully in my best suit, the navy one Sarah had bought me for the occasion. She wore a beautiful blue dress, and to anyone watching, we looked like a happy couple celebrating a major milestone. Only we knew that my hands were shaking slightly as I tied my tie. "You don't have to do this," Sarah whispered as we drove to the country club. "We could just not show up. Call Jonathan. Let him handle everything legally." "No," I said. "This needs to happen. People need to see." The country club looked beautiful. Derek had done a good job with the arrangements. I had to give him that. White tablecloths, elegant centerpieces, A slideshow of photos from 40 years of projects playing on screens around the room. My life's work on display. Derek greeted us at the entrance, all smiles and hugs. Uncle Thomas, Aunt Sarah, everything's perfect, isn't it? This is your night. It certainly is, I said, and managed to smile back. I worked the room, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. Former clients, current employees, friends from church, Sarah's book club, my fishing buddies. Linda was there with her husband Robert, beaming with pride at her son's organizational skills. My own daughter Emma had flown in from Seattle with her husband and kids. She gave me a tight hug. Dad, this is amazing, she said. 40 years. You built something incredible. I did, I said, holding her close. And I'm going to make sure it survives. She gave me a puzzled look, but I just smiled and moved on. At 7:30, Derek approached me. Uncle Thomas, it's almost time for the toast. I've got the documents all prepared, just like we discussed. You'll say a few words, everyone will raise a glass, and then we'll do the official signing. Make it a real moment, you know? Sounds perfect, I said. He handed me a leather folder. These are the transition documents. Standard stuff. Just sign where I've marked with the tabs. I took the folder but didn't open it. I'll look them over while you're getting everyone's attention. Oh, there's no need. Derek, I said, letting a little steel into my voice. I've been signing business documents for 40 years. I think I can manage one more review. He laughed nervously. Of course, Uncle Thomas. Take your time. He walked away to coordinate with the servers, making sure everyone had champagne for the toast. I moved to the head table, where Jonathan was already seated, looking like just another guest. He gave me a subtle nod. I opened Derek's folder. There they were, just as he'd described to Marcus. Power of attorney documents that would give Derek complete control, disguised to look like standard retirement paperwork. I almost admired the audacity of it. Then I closed that folder and opened the identical one Jonathan had placed under my chair earlier. Our documents. The real documents. At 7:45, Derek tapped a microphone and called for attention. The room quieted down. The slideshow paused on a photo of me at 25, standing in front of my first completed project, a small office building in downtown Houston. Ladies and gentlemen, Derek began, his voice warm and confident. We're here tonight to celebrate an extraordinary man and an extraordinary career. My uncle, Thomas Crawford, started with nothing but a dream and a work ethic that put the rest of us to shame. 40 years later, Crawford Construction has built over 300 projects, employed thousands of people, and become a cornerstone of Texas business. Applause filled the room. I stood and waved, playing my part. Now, Derek continued, Uncle Thomas is beginning a well-earned retirement. Tonight, we're going to make it official. He's going to sign the transition documents, passing on his legacy, and we're all going to toast to his incredible journey. More applause. Derek gestured for me to come to the podium. I walked up slowly, carrying the folder, Jonathan's folder. Thank you all for being here, I said into the microphone. My voice was steady. 40 years is a long time. I've built a lot of buildings, but more importantly, I've built a lot of relationships. I've learned that in this business, your word is your bond. Your reputation is everything. And family, well, family is supposed to be the people you can trust most in the world. I saw Derek shift slightly, probably wondering where I was going with this. So tonight, I'm going to sign these documents in front of all of you as witnesses. I want you all to see what's in my heart, what matters to me, and where Crawford Construction is going. Derek relaxed, smiling. He thought he'd won. But first, I said, I need to tell you all something. About 3 weeks ago, I discovered that someone I trusted, someone I loved like a son, was planning to steal everything I'd built. The room went dead silent. Derek's face froze. I overheard a conversation, I continued, my voice growing stronger. A conversation between my nephew Derek and our CFO, Marcus Webb. A conversation about forged power of attorney documents, about having me declared mentally incompetent, about selling off my company piece by piece and splitting $45 million between them. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Linda stood up, her face shocked. "Tommy, what are you—" "I have recordings," I said. "I have bank records. I have proof of shell companies in Delaware. I have documentation of buyers already lined up to purchase Crawford Construction's assets. My nephew has been planning this for months, maybe years." Derek's face had gone from pale to red. "That's insane." "Uncle Thomas, you're confused. You're not understanding." "I understand perfectly," I said. I held up the folder he'd given me. "These documents Derek prepared, they're fraud. Pure and simple. Power of attorney, disguised as retirement paperwork. If I'd signed them, he would have had complete control of everything I own." I opened the folder and held up the papers so the audience could see them, though I knew most wouldn't understand the legal language from a distance. But they could see my hands weren't shaking. My voice wasn't confused. I was completely, utterly lucid. "But I'm not signing those," I said. "Instead, I'm signing these." I held up Jonathan's folder. "These are legitimate retirement documents, prepared by my actual attorney, Jonathan Reeves, who many of you know. These documents place Crawford Construction into a trust with myself and my wife Sarah as trustees. They outline a plan for the company's future that protects our employees, honors our clients, and preserves everything we've built." Jonathan stood up and came to the podium. "I'm Jonathan Reeves," he announced to the crowd. "I've been Mr. Crawford's attorney for 30 years. I can verify that everything he's saying is true. The documents his nephew prepared are fraudulent. We have extensive evidence of conspiracy to commit elder fraud. The proper authorities have been notified." As if on cue, 2 men in suits appeared at the entrance to the hall. Detectives from the Houston Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. Patricia had coordinated their arrival perfectly. Derek's face was pure panic now. He looked at Marcus, who'd gone white as a sheet. "This is bullshit. You can't prove anything. He's an old man. He's confused. I'm 65, Derek," I said quietly. "Not dead, not senile, not confused, just disappointed." The detectives were making their way through the crowd now. Derek looked around wildly, probably considering running. But where would he go? Everyone he knew was in this room, watching him fall apart. "Mr. Derek Crawford?" one of the detectives said. "Marcus Webb? We need you both to come with us for questioning regarding allegations of attempted fraud and elder exploitation." "I want a lawyer," Derek said, immediately. "That's your right," the detective said calmly, "but you're going to need a good one." The room was chaos now. People talking, shouting, asking questions. Linda was crying, being comforted by Robert. Emma pushed through the crowd to get to me, wrapping her arms around me. "Dad, oh my God, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart," I said. "I'm fine now." I watched as the detectives escorted Derek and Marcus out of the hall. Derek's wife Melissa stood frozen, holding their sleeping baby, tears streaming down her face. My heart broke for her. She probably had no idea what her husband had been planning. Jonathan stepped back to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I know this has been shocking, but Mr. Crawford would like to complete the evening as planned. With your permission, he'd like to sign the legitimate retirement documents, and then, if anyone still has the stomach for it, share that toast." There was nervous laughter, but people settled down. I sat at the head table with Jonathan beside me and carefully signed each page of the real documents. Sarah signed as witness. Jonathan signed as attorney. 3 other friends I'd asked to witness signed their names too. When it was done, I stood again. The room was quieter now, subdued. "I know that's not the celebration you all came here for," I said, "and I'm sorry for that. But I needed you all to be here. I needed witnesses to the truth, not just to protect myself legally, but because—" I paused, feeling the weight of it all. "Because some of you probably have noticed me forgetting things lately, repeating stories, getting confused about dates." People shifted uncomfortably. I saw a few nods. "That's because Derek's been gaslighting me for months," I said, "setting me up, making me doubt myself, making all of you doubt me. It worked so well that even I started to wonder sometimes if I was losing it. But I'm not. I got checked out by my doctor last week. Full cognitive evaluation. I'm sharp as ever, just a little older and a little slower. I raise my glass of champagne. So here's my toast. To the people who stick by you when things get hard. To the people who tell you the truth even when it hurts. To family that actually acts like family. And to never, ever taking anything for granted, especially trust. To trust, Sarah said beside me, her voice thick with emotion. To trust, the room echoed, and we all drank. The party continued after that, but it was different. Smaller groups, quieter conversations. A lot of people came up to me privately to express support, to apologize for doubting me, to ask if there was anything they could do. Linda approached me around 9 o'clock, her eyes swollen from crying. "Tommy, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I had no idea. He's my son, and I had no idea." "I know, Lynn," I said, hugging her. "He fooled both of us." "What's going to happen to him?" "That depends on what he does next," I said honestly. "If he cooperates, takes responsibility, maybe the DA will go easier on him. But what he did, it's serious. It's not just about stealing money. He was planning to have me declared incompetent, Lynn. He was willing to take everything from me, including my dignity." She nodded, crying harder. "I understand. I raised him better than this. I thought I did." "You did," I assured her. "Sometimes people make choices we can't control." After Linda left, Emma and her family stayed close. We talked quietly about what would happen next. The investigation, the legal proceedings, the media attention that would probably follow. Crawford Construction was a well-known company in Texas. This was going to make news. "What about the business?" Emma asked. "Are you still retiring?" "Eventually," I said, "but not tomorrow. I'm going to stick around for a transition, make sure everything's stable. I owe that to our employees. And I need to figure out who's actually trustworthy in management." "Did Marcus have any idea you knew?" Sarah asked. "No," I said. "I was very careful, acted normal around both of them right up until tonight. It nearly killed me, but I had to be sure they'd go through with it, had to catch them in the act." By 10:30, the crowd had thinned out. The country club staff was starting to clean up, boxing up the centerpieces, taking down the banner. Jonathan came over with a briefcase full of documents. "The detectives want to interview you tomorrow," he said. "Go over everything again officially. I'll be with you." "Thank you, Jonathan," I said. "For everything." "That's what friends do," he said simply. "We protect each other." Sarah and I drove home in silence. The adrenaline that had carried me through the evening was wearing off, and I felt exhausted. Bone-deep tired in a way I hadn't felt in years. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked as we pulled into our driveway. "I don't know," I admitted. "I'm relieved it's over. I'm glad we stopped him. But Lynn's face. God, Sarah, seeing her realize what her son had become." "I know," she said softly. "But you did the right thing. You had to protect yourself. Protect us." We went inside. The house felt too quiet. I poured myself a bourbon and sat in my study, looking at the photos on the walls. 40 years of projects, award ceremonies, photos with employees at company picnics. Derek was in some of them, young and eager, shaking my hand at his college graduation, at his wedding, at various job sites over the years. When had it changed? When had the ambitious nephew become the scheming thief? Or had he always been that way, just waiting for the right opportunity? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You'll regret this. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You'll pay for this." "Derek." I showed it to Sarah. "Forward it to Jonathan," she said immediately. "And the police. He's threatening you." I did. Within minutes, Jonathan called. "That was stupid of him," Jonathan said. "Digital threats that can be traced. He really is panicking. I'm going to suggest to the DA that they consider this when setting bail. He's already showing he might be a danger." "I just want this over with," I said. "It will be," Jonathan assured me. "But it's going to take time. Months, probably. These cases always do." He was right. The investigation took 4 months. During that time, the story broke in the local news, then got picked up regionally. "Construction magnate stops Nephew's fraud scheme," read one headline. "Texas builder outsmarts would-be thieves," read another. The attention was overwhelming. Reporters called constantly. I declined most interviews, but did one with a business journalist I'd known for years, just to get my version of events on record. Derek and Marcus both lawyered up immediately. Marcus cut a deal early, agreeing to testify against Derek in exchange for a reduced sentence. Derek fought it at first, insisting he'd done nothing wrong, that I'd misunderstood everything, that I was confused and senile and making wild accusations. But Patricia Cole's evidence was overwhelming. The recorded conversations, the shell companies, the prearranged buyers, the forged documents, Derek's own threatening text messages after the party. His lawyer eventually convinced him to take a plea deal. 7 months after my retirement party, Derek pleaded guilty to attempted fraud and conspiracy. He got 5 years in prison, with possibility of parole after 3. Marcus got 2 years for cooperation. I sat in the courtroom when the sentence was handed down. Linda was there too, in the back row, trying to be invisible. Derek looked small in his orange jumpsuit. Nothing like the confident man who'd worked beside me for 15 years. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, Derek stood up. For a moment, I thought he might apologize, might take real responsibility. "I just want to say," Derek began, his voice shaking, "that I was trying to help. I was trying to protect Uncle Thomas from himself. He was making bad decisions, forgetting things, and I thought if I had control, I could preserve what he'd built. It was still a lie. Even then, even after everything, he couldn't admit the truth. I'm sorry things turned out this way," he finished. That was as close to an apology as he could manage. The judge looked unimpressed. "Mr. Crawford," the judge said, "you had opportunities to express concerns about your uncle's competency through legal channels. You chose instead to create fraudulent documents and plan to steal millions of dollars. The court is not moved by your claims of good intentions." And that was it. Derek was led away. He didn't look at me as he passed. Linda found me outside the courthouse afterward. "Tommy," she said, "I know you probably never want to see me again, but I need you to know. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I didn't see what he was becoming. I'm sorry I believed him when he said you were declining. I'm sorry for all of it." "Lynn," I said gently, "you didn't do anything wrong. You loved your son. That's not a crime." "Are we still family?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Always," I said, and I meant it. Derek made his choices. You didn't. We hugged, and I felt some of the tension between us ease. It would take time, but maybe we could rebuild our relationship. That was 8 months ago now. I'm 66 years old. Crawford Construction is still operating, now under new management I carefully vetted. I didn't retire completely after all. I come in twice a week to consult, to mentor, to make sure my 40 years of knowledge doesn't just disappear. Sarah and I took a long vacation to Italy after the trial, something we'd always talked about doing. We walked through ancient ruins and ate pasta and drank wine and didn't talk about betrayal or fraud or family drama for 3 blessed weeks. Emma calls every Sunday. She wants to know I'm okay, that I'm not dwelling on what happened. I tell her I'm fine, and mostly I am. But sometimes, late at night, I think about Derek as a kid, the way he used to follow me around job sites asking a million questions, the pride in his eyes when I taught him to read blueprints. Where did I miss it? What signs did I not see? Jonathan tells me I can't think that way. "Some people are just wired differently," he says. "Some people see relationships as transactional. Family becomes just another asset to exploit." Maybe he's right. Or maybe Derek was always decent and something in him broke along the way. Some combination of pressure and opportunity and greed that turned him into someone I didn't recognize. I'll probably never know. What I do know is this. I built something that mattered. I employed people, created structures that will outlast me, treated workers with dignity and clients with respect. For 40 years, I kept my word and honored my commitments. Derek tried to take that from me. He tried to reduce my life's work to a dollar amount in a shell company account, but he failed. And every building I ever constructed is still standing, still bearing my name, still testament to what matters. My phone buzzes. It's a message from Linda. Derek's eligible for parole in 2 years. He wants to know if you'd be willing to write a letter supporting his application. I told him I'd ask, but no pressure, Tommy. I understand if you can't. I stare at the message for a long moment. 2 years. Derek will be 41. Still, young enough to rebuild a life, if he's learned anything from this. Will I write that letter? I don't know yet. I've got 2 years to decide. Sarah comes out onto the porch where I'm sitting, brings me a cup of coffee. What are you thinking about? She asks. Legacy, I say. And forgiveness. And whether they're connected. She sits beside me, her hand finding mine. You've got time to figure it out. Yeah, I say. I guess I do. The sunset is beautiful over our property, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere out there, Derek is in a cell, probably thinking about the choices that put him there. And I'm here, in the home I bought with money I earned, honestly, next to the woman I've loved for 42 years, knowing that my legacy isn't just buildings or business success. It's also standing up for what's right, even when what's right is painful. Even when what's right costs you family. Even when what's right means exposing someone you love. I sip my coffee and watch the sun go down. Tomorrow I'll go into the office, review some plans for a new community center we're bidding on. Next week, Sarah and I have tickets to see Emma and the grandkids. Next month is Linda's birthday, and we'll have dinner together, careful and healing. Life goes on, construction continues, buildings rise, the work that matters endures. And me? I'm still standing. If you learned something from my story, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And please, I'm curious, drop your location in the comments below. Let me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow I'll share another story about what I learned from 40 years in business, about trust, about family, about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Thanks for listening. And remember, protect yourself, trust your instincts, and never let anyone, not even family, convince you that you're less capable than you know you are.